Code switching, not just linguistics. Hello, I'm Christina Aspa, and I want to share with you some thoughts and facts about code switching and how it is affected by culture. Language is the roadmap of culture. It tells you where its people come from and where they are going. This quote by Rita Mae Brown is especially true in regard to how culture affects language and how people from different cultures can change the way they speak, move their body, or touch others in order to better communicate. What is code switching from a cultural perspective? Cross-cultural code switching is the act of purposely modifying one's behavior in an interaction in a foreign setting in order to accommodate different cultural norms for appropriate behavior. What enables someone to effectively code switch is diglossia. What is diglossia? It is a situation in which two languages, or two varieties of the same language, are used under different conditions within a community, often by the same speakers. The term is usually applied to languages with distinct high and low colloquial varieties, such as Arabic. In the United States, we have different vernacular. Why would someone code switch? Very often, people code switch, both consciously and unconsciously, to act or talk more like those around them. While this can be effective, failing to switch can also be a problem. For example, if you are at work and you answer your boss in casual vernacular after they've asked you to do something, it could be seen as a sign of disrespect. This difference in acceptable expression can affect the power distance between managers and subordinates, can also affect uncertainty avoidance in many cultures that are not part of the dominant culture. On the other hand, code switching can be seen as a threat to other high UA cultures. It doesn't appear as though cultures that rely heavily on code switching for survival skew more masculine or feminine, however. To fit in or stand out. People feel very strongly about their identity, and they will often show that they are capable of speaking the more prestigious language even though they don't have to. Covert prestige is using non-standard language to show that you are part of a collective, which could be seen as a survival or parochial view as opposed to emancipative. For example, in a job interview, if you identified with a part of the interviewer's culture, you would attempt to capitalize on that via code switching in order to gain favor. Code switching also creates collectives. The collective then creates an outgroup that is not speaking the same dialect, which in turn creates a dominant culture within the counterculture and can cause some people of the dominant culture to feel excluded. Ingratiate oneself to others. Using an accent other than our own is one way to ingratiate ourselves to others. For example, using an American Southern accent at restaurants has been shown to produce larger tips and more trust because customers believe that accent implies trustworthiness and respect and gives the impression of being a part of the in-group. We also ingratiate ourselves to change the power distance in interpersonal communication to make it seem larger or smaller. Sharing a secret. Higher uncertainty avoidance may lead some to code switch in order to remain part of the counterculture in-group. It can be used to talk about people from the standard language dominant culture without their knowledge, and this also creates collectives within a counterculture. We also code switch in order to help convey thoughts. Higher uncertainty avoidance may cause people to code switch in order to convey their thoughts without fear of language-related miscommunication. It also may be used to convey expressions lacking a true translation. Linguistic insecurity. Perhaps someone could be afraid of underperforming when presenting in front of someone it is assumed would prefer the standard dialect. This is especially true for children who are fluent in multiple languages but are still learning the nuances of another culture. The linguistic insecurity is affected by traditionalism, in that the dominant culture group tends to hold the standard without allowing for cultural differences in vernacular. There are over 7,000 recognized languages in the world and thousands more dialects. That number is constantly in flux because we're learning more about the world's languages every day, and beyond that, the languages themselves are in flux. They're living and dynamic, spoken by communities whose lives are shaped by our rapidly changing world. Within the United States alone, many communities speak their own dialect of English if English is their primary language. Language is about power. My linguistics professor always says a standard language has money and a military to back it up. If it is considered codified and standard, it is because a group of people had the money and the might to enforce it. This concept is what creates the power distance between the people who insist on the standard language being used and those who have to code switch between their dialect and the standard language. Problematic ways that we prop up this standard, promoting those who also prop up the standard and passing over those who fail to code switch appropriately, quote unquote. Expecting everyone to use standard English regardless of culture or educational background, thus reinforcing the dominant culture and excluding the counterculture. Assuming that someone who fails to code switch in order to uphold that standard with us is less intelligent or educated, thus widening the power distance. And lastly, failing to take race and cultural background into account when communicating with someone who does not code switch. How can we be better? Refrain from judging intelligence based solely off of someone's use of vernacular. And also educating ourselves about different ways that we code switch ourselves and to pay attention to how it influences our daily lives. I've added a movie link, which isn't clickable, but go and watch the trailer for Sorry to Bother You. It's a film about a young black man who has to use his quote-unquote white voice in order to become a successful phone salesperson. Thank you so much for watching my presentation. If you have any questions, corrections, or comments, please feel free to email me at christinaaspa@gmail.com or caspa@asu.edu. Thank you so much.